Sean McVay also on the headset during the game. Coach's cam calling me a jerk. This past Sunday, as the Rams eked out a 13-12 thriller over the Cowboys, in the booth with me, Andrew Whitworth, and the wonderful Mina Kimes, who joins us now from ESPN. Mina did not, however, get called a jerk by Sean. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. You're not a jerk.
Oh, he was. Well, sometimes I can be. He was having fun because he was down to the sideline, and Brandon Aubrey was lining up for a field goal. Kick was up in the air, and he said, oh, I think he missed it. And you and I look at the monitor, he didn't miss it. And I said, nope, it's good. He goes, you got a better angle than me, you jerk. I'm like, okay, did I need that? But no, he is awesome.
He's great.
Yeah, and the game was, I mean, let's call it like it
eventful.
Was. Yeah, see, there was us up at the booth with Whit. Just so you know, Whit is sitting on the desk, and I am standing up. But TJ, see, this is how you do it. You look at the camera and you smile for the photo. You don't like stare off into the distance like you're some IG model.
Well, then let's ask Mina. We could pop my picture up, and then Mina can say if she approves of it or not, and I'll take her word for it.
Okay.
If it's possible.
Okay.
I don't know.
You had the flag wrapped around you. Mina, TJ's a big Cowboys fan. There, we're waiting for it. We're getting the switcher. There it is. Mina, what do you think of
this? I mean,
that looks like a book cover. Like
Mina,
you're about to drop an album or something.
Right? Mina, it's dropping the 15th of February. It's going to be the hottest mixtape of all time. I'm telling you. Right.
Was that a candid, or did you just?
That's what I asked.
I was candid. Mina, I was in my thoughts. I was in my feelings. Yeah, you know, the Cowboys were there.
Candid.
I had my flag, and my friend Dylan just happened to capture a tremendous moment of self-reflection. God was good to have me in the
art
building.
director.
Were you thinking, man, Trey Lance, when Dak Prescott's a Raider next year, this is it for me. This is where this is going.
Well, this was pregame, so I hadn't had those thoughts yet. But it was more like, what is Roger Staubach doing right now? Where's he?
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Wow. All right,
boys.
Let's get to the football here with Mina Kimes, and I know you guys talk about this on ESPN Daily here on NFL Live.
Yeah.
The Brandon Aiyuk situation. I think you and I. And Tom Pelissero was on earlier, and I think he kind of agrees here as well, are of like mind. And that is, if the Niners are to trade Brandon Aiyuk, there is very little chance that they will get something in return that will maintain their level of excellence this year that they would have had with him. Now, granted, there are other stories here, Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey's hamstring, but you're not a better team if you get rid of him. You know, what is going on here?
Andrew, I agree with you. I have said from the beginning of this drama, it did not make sense to me that the 49ers would move on from Brandon Aiyuk, not just because I think he's an underrated talent who's in a different offense. I think we would probably see him as a more obvious number one wide receiver. He'd have that kind of production, although his efficiency numbers are insane. Not also, of course, because the Niners are in it to win a Super Bowl this year, as they should be. So it has never made sense to me that they would move on from a player this season after the draft and not be able to help the team in the short term, certainly not to the extent that Brandon Aiyuk does, where I think he adds such a different dimension to this offense in terms of stretching the field vertically, his ability to get haul and catches outside the numbers at all three levels. So it does not surprise me that we are now in August, and that after all of this drama, all of these rumors, all of the requests and Instagrams and whatnot, there's reports that it's possible that Aiyuk and the Niners are just going to stay together after all. However, I have reached a point with this story where I just don't want to hear it anymore.
I agree.
Like it is, he in this story is your friend who has been saying they're going to leave their ex for months, right? It's like, oh man, this time. And you know, when as a friend, you get to a point where you're like, yeah, man. And then you just don't give them anything back because you don't want to talk about it anymore. That's where I am with Aiyuk and the Niners. You weren't going to leave him or her or them or whoever the Niners are. You're not going to. So I don't want to hear about it anymore because it feels like this was just a gigantic waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, where they're talking and you let them go. But you're in your car and you're on Bluetooth and your mind's elsewhere. You're focusing on your driving, perhaps. And then it's one of those ones where you hear, oh, they just stopped talking. And then you go, oh, yeah. And you go, I know, it's frustrating. It's rough.
That's wild, man. That's wild. Yeah,
I know. But
wild
hey,
stuff.
this is kind of how it's been for a while, right?
What?
Right. No, this is me talking to my friend. Like,
you're so
like kind of how it's been for a while. So you're gonna have to make a decision.
You're like, wow, I agree with you. Points are made. Let's do a list of pros and cons. Have you thought about this person? But like the 11th time, that's wild. Yeah. That's wild.
Talking to Mina Kimes, we saw, I don't know, we saw a couple of returns. I don't know that we saw anything too exciting with the new dynamic return. Dynamic has a lot of different meanings. Dynamic, some people think of awesome. No, it means change for the most part, but there was nothing that was too exciting there. We did have a long return in Jacksonville. I think one other return in another game that seemed somewhat exciting. I know this is something that you've talked to a lot of people on, and I think you and I are hearing the same thing, which is no one really wants to show anything now. But Mina, I'm to the point where when we get to the regular season, I think there are a bunch of coaches that still aren't going to show anything, and they're going to let other people figure it out. Yeah.
Here's what I found interesting from this weekend, and I'm kind of interested in going forward. So to your point, a lot of teams haven't showed a lot of stuff. And we've been thinking about that from the receiving side, but also from the kicking side. You're seeing teams, this happened in our game, was McVay's approach. We're just kicking it out and saying, let's take the touchback. It's the 30-yard line. And what I found interesting about the first weekend is the average starting position. I saw Michael Lopez put this information out, was I believe 28 yards around there, which is up from, I think the average last year in the NFL was 22 and something change. If a touchback goes to the 30, that 2-yard difference of the average, and obviously that's impacted by all the touchbacks too, but I think a lot of coaches will look at that difference being so small and say, yeah, it's not worth the risk in case, they break something off. So what I'm curious to see if the NFL considers moving the touchback to the 30-yard or 35-yard line, perhaps, just to incentivize more actual returns, which is the point of the whole thing.
And I think that's going to happen. Some people have suggested that. Sean Payton, in an open microphone a couple of weeks ago, suggested that as well. I'll pull back the curtain. There was a conference call, a seminar, where people could ask Walton Anderson, head of officiating, some questions that I was on 2 weeks ago. I've lost track of time. And someone brought that up. Hey, Walt, could you see it move to the 35 by the time we get to the regular season? We're talking special teams. I'll say he punted. He didn't say no. He didn't say yes. He gave the standard company line, which is, look, it's a work in progress here and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get it. But I think there's a slight possibility, maybe more than slight, that yes, that happens. And we do see it on the 35 because, look, they want to see returns. And the numbers, for those who don't know, I have the numbers up here. Let me get them. Last year, it was the lowest rate of return we have ever seen. It was 22.1%. And that's not good for anybody. It is safer, right? You're not getting any returns, but it's not good viewing, and the play is meaningless. They need to find the sweet spot where, A, you get more returns and you bring excitement back to the game, but B, you do it safely. And it is very much a work in progress. But look, Mina and I will both tell you, Mina, you've had these conversations. I know you have. There are a lot of coaches that just go to heck with this. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. And on it, but the difference, and we see this all the time in the NFL where the margins are so thin, potentially in the playoffs, potentially in these, games that could decide the division, could be between teams, staffs who take this seriously and ones who don't. Because you're right, absolutely right. There's some coaches who don't want to deal with it. But I've also heard from not just special teams coordinators, but coaches across the league and people who work with them that some teams are excited about it, intrigued by it, and feel like this is an opportunity for them to gain on the margins. The Chiefs being a team that come to mind, and it's like, okay, well, if it's, and they have one of the better special team coordinators in the NFL, and Dave too, but if the Super Bowl, winner is taking this seriously, that, I feel like says something.
Yeah, it does. And I think this will separate the good special teams coaches from just the guys, right?
Yeah.
And show me some creativity. Anyway, I digress. Talking to Mina Kimes here. Let's hit your Seahawks real quick. I was up there on Monday and sitting there with John Schneider and on Sirius XM NFL Radio, I said, Are you comfortable with your O-line? This is after Connor Williams was getting on the field for the very first time. He was on the field on Monday. He's not doing anything, but they do say that the goal is week 1 to have him ready for that game in Seattle against the Broncos. I said, John, are you comfortable with your O-line? With Abe Lucas still working back for the injury? He made a face, and he's like, and then he gave his answer and talked about all the players he's happy with. Are you happy with the Seahawks O-line?
Well, I will say, I think just about every GM across the NFL, if you ask them, are you comfortable with the O-line? I think 80% would make the same face, probably. But I actually echo that sentiment, which is to say, I think that it's in all right condition. I really liked the addition of Williams to shore up that interior, which, by the way, that was such a problem for Geno. So I've ranted about this a lot, but I think last season it was maybe underestimated how bad his pass protection was, and it was such an issue for this team on third down. It was a problem with run blocking as well. So, the hope is that it'll be better this year, but that hope hinges on Williams coming in and he's coming off of the injury and contributing immediately. And then I think, the tackle position was one that was 2 years ago looked like it was going to be this incredible strength of this team, with Charles Cross coming in at left tackle, first round draft pick, playing so well out the gate, and then Abe Lucas on the right side. I think Charles Cross is going to have a great year, but I'm a little bit apprehensive about Lucas's injury, just because there's been issues for him throughout his career, and you're going into the season with it being a question mark yet again.
As the Seahawks have obviously a new head coach, Mike Macdonald, coordinators on both sides of the ball. It's Mike Macdonald's defense here. I'm fascinated to see what Ryan Grubb does with that offense. Here's a hint. They are going to run the football. This is not just going to be Michael Penix thrown for 9,500 yards over the last 2 seasons at UW. They do have the weapons there, but they do want to run the football, certainly, which, of course, every offense and every coach says before the season begins. Real quick, Sam Darnold, because it looks like it is obviously going to be Sam. No matter how well J.J. McCarthy did play in the preseason, he needed 3 more games like we saw this past weekend, I think, to get that job week number 1. I am not a Sam Darnold truther, okay? But I am mildly interested to see what an extended, you're laughing, an extended Sam Darnold residency looks like. I just need it out of my system.
You're conducting your own Sam Darnold research, is what it sounds like.
Sure. Yeah.
But you know what? For me to label you a member of a conspiracy hive there would be hypocritical for me, because I have also Sam curious. Let's put it that way. I'm Sam curious. Yeah. I'm a Sampathizer. Oh God. Anyways,
keep going. You got one more. Keep going.
Oh God, let me think about that one. Here's the thing about Darnold. He has been failed by so many situations, and not so many situations, but he has not really had a great shot. I do think in Carolina in 2022, he showed some stuff. There are a few games, including against the Seahawks, by the way, where I thought he played excellent. And this, you saw the inconsistent play, some of the turnovers. He was a bit streaky. He was streaky, pardon me, in a way that obviously he was throughout his time with the Jets. In Minneapolis, he walks into one of the best situations for any quarterback in the NFL. Forget, rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, forget a backup. This is an incredible situation. It's an above-average offensive line when it comes to pass protection, one of the better groups of weapons in the NFL, and obviously Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. But boy, they look like they got something in Jalen Naylor too. And you had Aaron Jones, who I think is just a perfect addition for that under center outside zone rushing attack that Kevin O'Connell likes. This is it. This is put up or shut up time for us who are, us Sampathizers out there, because
Sampathizer. Love it.
I think it works. The more I say it, the more confidence I'm gaining in it. Because, we'll know now. I don't think after this season or after his start with the Vikings, and by the way, Kevin O'Connell, who I didn't even let out, I think is such a good play caller, Andrew. If he doesn't succeed now, we will shut up and forever hold our peace.
There you go. Brockman, get in here.
Real quick, Mina, big picture. Every year there's 4, 5, 6 new playoff teams. But if you look at the 14 from last year, you kind of say, yes, I think they're all going to make it again. Who among the 14 from last year do you have the biggest concern about?
The 4 teams last year.
The 14 that made the playoffs last year.
Sorry.
Every year there is turnover, so inevitably 4 or 5 of them are not going to make it. Like, who are those teams, you think?
You want me to list them?
Yeah, why don't you list them? I have one in mind.
Okay, here we go. Last year, Philly, Tampa, Rams, Lions, Packers, Cowboys, Niners. That's your NFC.
Yeah. I'll do one. I mean, I'll say the Bucks come to mind for me in the NFC, just because that division was obviously so close because it was so bad until the end. And I think, there's reason to believe that the Falcons, obviously the reason being that they have a quarterback now, Kirk Cousins, the Falcons could give them a run for their money this year. I will say though, I still think that, like anybody could probably win the NFC South, and I wouldn't be surprised. And then on the AFC side,
Ravens, Bills. We'll do it in order. Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, Texans, Browns, Dolphins, Steelers.
I feel like the Steelers are the easy answer. It's probably the obvious one given the uncertainty at the quarterback position. The Browns are interesting to me, Andrew, because they had such an incredible defense. Obviously, it's 1 or 2, depending on how you rank them, in the Ravens. And it is typically hard for great defense to repeat year to year. Yeah. But I do think that if any defense can do it, it is probably this one. We just talked about them on my podcast, Mina Kimes Show, featuring Lenny, previewing the AFC North this week. Because one, they're unbelievably deep at every level, frankly, and you saw that depth get experienced last year. So a guy like Grant Delpit going out of the lineup, I thought was so amazing for them. And I have such high hopes for this year. Then you have these young safeties stepping up, and suddenly now you're incredibly deep and stacked at safety. And I think they're going to learn from the lessons of the playoff loss, and that defenses could be just as good this season.
Yeah, I hope so as well. I also hope that the injuries that are mounting on the defensive and actually offensive side of the ball as well are just camp things that they can get through and they can get healthy to week 1. As we were saying before you came on, really you're at the point of the season, the preseason and camp now, where it's let's just get to week 1 healthy, and the Rams certainly are like that with the injury to Puka, which is not serious. He'd be probably, if there was a playoff game tomorrow, he could play, I'm guessing. And the Rams O-line, which is a major issue with their 3 starters out right now with injuries. Mina and yours truly and Andrew Whitworth, if you're here in LA, ABC 7 playing the Chargers coming up on Saturday. Appreciate your time with your busy schedule. Say hi to Lenny for us, please.
I will. I will see you this weekend, Andrew.
See you Saturday. Mina Kimes, everybody. And, of course, listen to her podcast. Hold on, give me the name. Is the Mina Kimes Show with Lenny? I always want to say it's the Lenny Show with Mina Kimes.
No.
The
And
Mina
he
Kimes
actually,
Show with Lenny.
If you check out the latest we talked about the rookie quarterbacks, he actually popped on, which he often doesn't. He's not here right now, and jumped into my lap when I was talking about Caleb Williams, which if you needed a sign that Caleb Williams is the chosen one, take that as one.
There you go. And if you need great, feed cleansing videos, look at videos of Lenny jumping up and down behind the puppy gate. It's awesome. Thank you, Mina.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.